Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Gillespie. Today we're going to be talking about hip extension. How much hip extension do you have available to you as you walk? And are you making up for your lack of hip extension by twisting as you walk instead of allowing the leg to extend behind you? We're going to be doing a little check before and a check after, and we're going to be doing a stretch in between designed to help restore length to the hip flexors. When we do our check, I'm going to introduce you to some objective markers of your pelvis. So if you feel the front of your pelvis, you can feel these bony protuberances on the upper part of your pelvis, and this would be your left and right ASIS, or anterior superior iliac spine, if you want to get really technical. We're also going to be feeling for the pubic symphysis, your pubic bone. These 3 points make up what I call the triangle of your pelvis. When we are doing our pre-check and stretch and after check today, we're going to be working to keep those points of the triangle on the same plane. So if this triangle here marks your pelvis, we want to make sure that the pelvis isn't tilting forward or back as we do our movements. So let's get started and we'll take a look at where we are to begin with. So I'm going to have you stand on your right leg. This may be reversed on the camera, so don't let that confuse you. Stand on your right leg, push down through the right heel and the right hip to allow your left foot to float off of the floor without bending the knee. This is what we call a pelvic list. And then I'm just going to have you swing the leg back and forth. And notice, how easy is it for you to get your leg back behind you? Does it swing freely, or do you feel like you've got some restrictions that are holding up the range of motion that you have available to you? And then we'll check on the other side, pushing down through that left heel, down through the left hip to float the right leg up, and we're swinging the leg just back and forth, nice and easy. See if you can keep your pelvis nice and stationary without allowing it to tip or tuck or twist as you do this. And again, you're just seeing what kind of range of motion do you have available to you. You'll probably notice one side is different than the other. I have more range of motion on my right than I do on my left. So now that we've got our preview, we're going to go ahead and do our stretch, which is a lunge, and we're going to fine-tune the lunge. Put your knee on a bolster or a pillow, or if you need some kind of padding, you can use a towel, something like that. And then step forward with your other foot far enough so that when you lean forward, the knee will not move in front of the ankle. And just allow yourself to get situated here before you even move anything forward. Just check in with your pelvis and those points of your triangle. And just notice, are you twisted? If you had headlights on the front of your pelvis, would they both be shining forward? Also, go ahead and check with the pubic bone and make sure that those points of your triangle are on the same vertical plane so that the pubic bone isn't in front or behind, but they're stacked over each other nicely. Now that you've got those situated, I want you to shift your pelvis forward without changing any of that, but just allowing the thigh to move behind you. So we're really isolating what's going on through the hip joint. So we're shifting forward without changing anything at the pelvis. And it may look like you didn't shift forward at all because you have such limited range of motion or so much tension through those hip flexors. What we're used to seeing, you stay where you are, I'm going to show you. What we're used to seeing is, oh, this is a lunge. I've got great range of motion in my lunge. But what happens with this is the pelvis tilted forward. So my pubic bone is much farther behind the top of my pelvis. It's no longer in line with it. So when we do this lunge By maintaining these objective markers, we're really isolating a little more effectively what's going on in those hip flexors. Make sure you're breathing as you do this. Check that you're not holding tension anywhere. Sometimes we'll clench the jaw to help stabilize our balance, or in an effort, what we think will help stabilize our balance. So check that your jaw is relaxed, shoulders are down, or shoulders are relaxed, I should say. And then we'll come back and we'll switch to the other side. And again, we're going to bring the foot out as far as we need to so that when we shift forward, the knee doesn't move in front of the ankle. Check in with your pelvis that you haven't twisted. Check in with the pubic bone, those 3 points of your triangle, that they are stacked in the same vertical plane. And once you are situated, go ahead and allow your pelvis and your torso to shift forward, and the only thing that changes is your thigh and your knee are now further behind you. It may be minusculely further behind you. And I'm definitely noticing this left side for me is a lot less compared to my right. Ideally, we should have 30 degrees of hip extension. Most of us do not. I certainly do not. Our hip flexors have adapted to the position that they're in the most frequently. For the majority of us, the position that our hip flexors are in the most frequently is a shortened position because we spend a lot of time in hip flexion, also known as sitting. All right, and we'll come out of that and we'll do a recheck. So go ahead and we'll start with the left foot this time. Shift your weight to your left side, push down through that left hip and left heel, and allow the leg to swing. And just notice, how does it feel compared to your before picture? Are you able to keep your pelvis still more easily, or do you have less movement in your pelvis? And we'll switch to the other side. Pushing through that right heel, right hip, letting the left foot float off, and again, just swinging back and forth. I notice the most difference on my tighter side. So I feel like I can swing more easily on I've got better range of motion on my left side, which usually has less range of motion. All right, so this was one pass. You can certainly do this multiple times in order to really reap the benefits, and I recommend that you do it throughout the day, especially to break up times of extended periods of sitting. This stretch is helpful. Another really, really important piece of restoring length to the hip flexors is to put them in flexion less. Change the position that you're in most frequently so that they can begin to adapt to a position that requires more length. Hope this has been of help. Enjoy.